RedKit versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hello there. And then we got Quicker Wagon versus Mao Dun. Mao Dun. Like Mao Zedong? Mao Dun? Alright, so, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi is the Portuguese. So we got another Portugal. And they're going up against the Lakota with RedKit. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Have we seen RedKit? I think RedKit is Lakota main, so this is pretty interesting here. So we should get a nice Lakota fight. Yeah. Lakota versus Portugal is kind of a fascinating one because Lakota love to apply pressure in any matchup. But I don't know if they're going to pressure here or they're going to go for age 3 as well and try to maybe make some of their stuff. Yeah. One thing to note about this particular matchup, or really any matchup where Dragoon Skirm is a possibility, believe it or not, Rifle Riders are really scared of Skirmisher Dragoon because Rifle Riders also have the heavy cavalry tag, just like Hussars do. So Dragoons actually counter Rifle Riders just as good as Skirmishers do, if not better, because the Dragoons can run the Rifle Riders down in ways that the Skirmishers can't. I never learned that fact till years later when I looked at the unit tags and I finally figured out playing some Colosseum that my Javelin Riders with the Hausa in Colosseum were actually cooking the Rifle Riders. I used to think that they were a demigod of a unit until I realized that heavy cavalry tag was a huge shot in the foot for them to keep them in line. Yeah. Very interesting. It's one of the only units in the game that's both light cavalry and heavy cavalry in the main game, which is pretty funny because normally you got heavy cavalry and then you have light cavalry. But the Rifle Rider is an example of a hybrid where it's both classes of cavalry at the same time. Yeah, quite interesting. You don't realize that until you look at the unit stuff. Basically, you look at these icons like this, and then it gives you a bunch of stuff. So you see Villager, Land Villager, same thing with the Rifle Rider. You see a ton of classes. You see Cavalry, Light Cavalry, Heavy Cavalry, Gunpowder Cavalry, and you try to make a determination of what those tags are and multipliers and mathematics-wise, what affects it, basically. So, yeah, quite interesting stuff there, pretty much.
Qual é a sua ordem?
So, aging up with 13, probably 13 age up, yeah. Got their Fiterias done, very nice. So, presumably, similar to Chapika, Obi-Wan Kenobi would probably go for a fast fortress here with Portugal, just because he wants the, triple town center instead of just a double town center. So yeah, that's kind of what he's going to do. It really depends what the Lakota does, though. Is the Lakota going to be just as pesky as the Ottomans were the last game, or a little bit more reasonable? We'll see. Alright, so it looks like Lakota's just opening up their tribal marketplace now to start collecting that coin. Very nice. And do we see, well, he's probably has hunting dogs by now, since he has the market up. So that's in the shoe at this point. That's a shoe-in. But, yeah, it does look like Lakota might be playing more into a fast fortress themselves. Just because they're collecting that gold now. Because normally, if it was a fast fortress, if it was a hard aggro Lakota, they would be going for food and wood. And they'd be preparing war huts. Because, believe it or not, even though Lakota's always thought of as, we're a cavalry civ, Lakota in the 5th edition actually started out as a war hut-based civ, playing around at war clubs and C-10 bowmen, and then they eventually will bring in cavalry as needed. But what they usually do is they start out just by shipping cavalry in, and then once they get later in the game as needed, they'll actually start training cavalry. So they start out in their primitive state just doing archer club, and then they eventually acquire the horses to start doing the cavalry. Yeah. Okay, so Town Center is going right here to go right on top of the bison hunt. Of Question is where the third town center will go. Will it go defensive or will it go more offensive and try to capture new land? That will be the question. So Lakota's going to start out with 4 Axe Riders. Try to do as much raiding as possible. Axe Riders are obviously a very ferocious cavalry. Pretty tanky unit. They got a lot of attack. 35 hand attack. They're brutal. They're very insane. They're quite scary. They're actually so statistically scary they had to add a nerf to the unit since Legacy. They gave it a malice against Dragoons just so they wouldn't shred everything that they deal with, you know? Yeah, so if it's anything other than Dragoons, they're doing a solid 35 hand attack, which is quite powerful. Yeah. Oh man, he was trying to herd that hunt. Oh, he's not going to be able to herd that in now. That's bad. That's bad. So he's probably going to have to put a town center here later. Just, oh man, his hunt placement is not on par. Look at that. He's got a situation where the Axe Riders are right on top. Oh no, he got Seville too. So Portugal's dealing with some problems here. It's not going to be easy. I think he's got enough. Well, he doesn't have enough food to age up yet, though. So he's got to deal with these Axe Riders and hope that they don't devastate him. But they're definitely pinning him. They're pinning him so he can't get his hunt. Alright, so this is a frustrating situation when you're Portugal, when your enemy is literally keeping you from getting into age 3. If you can keep them in age 2, altogether, the Portugal is usually cooked. Captain cooked, like really bad. But unfortunately, the Axe Riders path through here, so lost another one to the town center. So they might have to pull back for a bit. But what we got now is, we got the... Oh wait a minute, no, he won 700 gold, so he changed his mind. I thought he was going to go for the forward war hut card, which would have been pretty nice there, but yeah, ends up going for that instead, it looks like. Alright, so he's got enough food finally. How about gold? So, oh, that's Lakota. That's Lakota going to Fortress Age. So they did a semi-fast fortress with the Axe Riders. Interesting setup. So now they're going up to age 3. Did I say age 4? Age 3, I'm sorry. Portugal is still in age 2. So Portugal wanted to get the fast fortress, they couldn't. But Lakota ended up getting it instead. So this might be a very bad situation for the Portuguese, yeah. Going for a stable. I think they want to go Dragoons, but they're not in age 3 yet, and they don't have the early Dragoon card in the deck. So if he's forced to fight this out in age 2, he's toast. He can't get his Dragoons. Yeah, because I would have agreed that going Dragoons in age 2 would have been the age 2 defense to do here. But he doesn't have that card in his deck, so he sadly can't call upon the Dragoons in age 2 to defend him, basically, like he might have wanted to. So that's going to be an unfortunate, tragic loss for him there in his defense. Yeah, pretty much. So, yep, Axe Rider's coming in again. This hunt is in such bad placement, he can't even stay on it long enough to get the food that he needs. This is sad. Alright, Portugal's getting a church, getting a couple houses down. Coda Witsy's going up with the wise woman. She's a very wise woman indeed. It's going to get him some free bison and get the hunting rate up too on his villagers, so he's going to get a ton of food. And he's going to actually be able to keep up with corral units because he's got so much food that things like the Axe Rider will actually be affordable. Yeah. See, you got to be careful with the Lakota because here's the thing. Initially, it might seem like the cavalry can take the town center down because, you know, cavalry normally aren't enough to siege a building down. But the thing is, when you're the Lakota, you can get the siege dance from the community plaza later on. I think in age 3 and later, that increases the siege of all units. So eventually, he's going to be able to get the siege dance going at that community plaza, and then he is going to be able to nuke these town centers with these Axe Riders surrounding him. So Portugal's got to play on thin ice here and make sure that this cavalry doesn't become a huge threat. That being said, it looks like the Lakota also gets some Wakina rifles, essentially some skirmishers that they have. A bit lower range, but it's still a pretty reasonable anti-Dragoon unit there. Because the Portugal is in age 3 now, he can do Dragoons and he can chase the Axe Riders with them. So he needs Wakina rifles to discourage the Dragoons a bit. So that's what he's going for there. Wakina rifles actually are going to come here to the corner and try sieging the town center a bit to take off some of that HP. But problem is he did keep those vills in there, so he was able to injure them pretty well. Yeah. 3 organ guns it looks like. Coming in right now. Quite nice. Queuing in more Dragoons. That's pretty awesome. That's what we're going to see there. Very good. So how many Wakinas is he on? Pretty good stack, actually. So he's got about 15 of them. Followed by Great Hunter. This is actually a really scary card because what it does is it actually gives you food, more food for all the hunting that you've done in the game thus far. And then it boosts your hunting rate by 20%. So for all 10% of the hunted animals that you've hunted so far, it gives you a stockpile of food right to your inventory, not even in crates. Up to 1.5k food. So if you've been hunting there for a while, is Lakota, you could easily get 1.5k food, which is like a huge, like age 4 food crate shipment worth of food. On top of your hunting rate for the rest of the game just being better. Really a godly food card for Lakota. Yeah. Axe Riders are still not veteran yet, right? Yeah. I guess it's fine. I mean, I think nowadays Lakota has the map control. They got all the hunts they need to use that Great Hunter card effectively now. Oh man, look at the Axe Riders going Wabadi Washday, the Shawak Day on top of his village. It's very good. That's what you like to see there. But now the Portugal has his help, so he's going heavy in the anti-cav. He really, really wants to get rid of those Axe Riders, you can tell. Because those Axe Riders are really making him bleed out his economy. Very serious stuff there. Yeah, no, he's got to be careful of that. What has he got left? Land Rush. So this guy doesn't have a Cazador shipment. He's got a fort, though. So the fort is probably going to be his next move. He's going to find an area where he needs economy, like right here or something, and he's going to put a fort down somewhere to, like, literally force the Lakota off. That's all he can do at this point is, like, establish a huge structure like a fort and have it be fully built to keep this guy off. Yeah, no, the fort I think is gonna be the center of that defense, really. So that's what we're gonna see there is a fort, without a doubt. It's gonna be a fort. Fort. Rifle Riders are in. These guys are brutal against artillery. They got multipliers of 6 against artillery. That's pretty scary. But again, the Dragoons have multipliers against them, so how's that guy? It goes very bad because you got Axe Riders and you got Rifle Riders. He's got a double factor trifecta against all your stuff, so that's not good. I hate Rifle Riders so much. Well, I think you could have dealt with them, but you had Axe Riders kind of sandwich you in there like a nice ham and cheese sandwich, so I don't think that was purely the Rifle Riders, though they are pretty formidable with their rate of fire. They actually have the same rate of fire as an archer, 1.5, so they shoot very fast, and then their multipliers are brutal. So, yeah, big time. Quite an interesting one, but we'll move on to the next game.